Hello guys, welcome to the fiction series. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto was son of Hades and Persephone and got harem? Huge shout out to TentailedJackalofDoom for this story. If you want more awesome fan fiction like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So without wasting any time, let's get into the video. The sounds of a woman screaming could be heard in a bleak and dreary building. The sound of a man whimpering in pain could also be heard. The woman then roared out, "This is all your fault, Hades, I swear on the river stinks that you'll pay for this." Hades whimpering said, "Hold dear, just a little longer, he's almost here." The woman turning to look him in the eyes said he'd better hurry up. Hades, feeling her applying more pressure to his hand, whimpered some more but sighed in relief when the loud cry of a baby boy couldn't have heard. Hades, sighing, said, "Oh thank Zeus." Persephone finally finished giving birth, held out her hands because she wanted to hold her baby. Hades, getting the message, handed the crying black-haired boy to her and pouted when the boy stopped his crying instantly and was now staring at his mom with his big innocent baby blue eyes. Persephone, smiling down at her beautiful baby boy, said, "Oh, you're such a cute little boy. My precious little maelstrom." Hades, smiling, said, "Naruto, eh? What a wonderful name for our son." Persephone, giggling, said, "Yes, Naruto, that's his precious name." Hades, smiling, gently took Naruto away from his wife and placed him in his crib so that Persephone could get some rest. He couldn't have known that his new son would be taken by 3 old crones, not wanting his new child to interfere with their plans. These old crones are known as the Fates, and they, taking the sleeping Naruto from his crib in the underworld, sealed away his godly powers and sent him to another universe, not even noticing the glowing red eyes watching them from the shadows. The next day the underworld would be hit with the wails of an upset mother and fury of a pissed off father. No citizen of the underworld would be safe, as Hades would go on a rampage that would make Zeus himself remind himself not to piss off Hades or his wife for that matter. In the other universe, the black-haired baby had just arrived in the middle of an epic battle between a man and blood-red 9-tailed fox. The man, spotting the baby, smiled as he now didn't have to seal the cursed fox into his daughter. He, summoning the death god, sealed the angry fox into the boy, not even caring that he had cursed a boy to a life of solitude and unjust hatred. Flash forward 13 years later and Naruto could be seen staring down another black-haired boy. Naruto had a large sword attached to his back. Naruto's baby blue eyes were slitted and blood red, indicating he was using the power of his close friend Kurama, the 9-tailed fox. He, staring at the other black-haired boy, said, "Look team, I'm not returning to that god-awful village, and nothing you could say will ever change my mind, so just go back to your little village, attach yourself to your little lover. I've got somewhere to be." Sasuke, scowling, said, "I'm not letting you leave the village, dope. I made a promise to the Hokage to bring you back to the village if you liked it or not." Naruto, sighing, said, "So be it." He then, pulling out his sword, said, "Prepare yourself for the fight of your life." Sasuke, activating his Sharingan, pulled out his own sword, readying himself for a battle he was not sure he could win. The two boys then launched at each other, engaging in a duel of wills. With each clash of swords, more chakra was pushed out until the entire valley was oversaturated with their chakra. Naruto, jumping in the sky, swung his sword down, said, "Blood-red pulse." Sasuke, remembering this attack was the one that had ended Kiba's career, quickly dodged to the left. He flinched when the wave of red chakra ripped the earth asunder. Naruto, landing, scowled, spotting Sasuke still alive. Sasuke then tapped into his curse seal given to him by Orochimaru of the Sannin. Naruto, spotting this, chuckled along with Kurama. He, putting his sword away, said, "Foolish Sasuke, you are not the only one Orochimaru gave a curse mark." He then took off his shirt to reveal the same curse seal Sasuke had on his collarbone. Naruto, tapping into his curse seal, started to chuckle darkly as he entered curse mode level 1, Kurama mode level 2. The fight then once again picked up, with Naruto clearly being the winner. Naruto, grabbing the beaten and bloody Sasuke by his collar, laughed and said, "I'm not going to kill you, Uchiha, but will not be leaving her unscathed. My price will one of your oh so precious Sharingan." Before Sasuke could protest, his left eye was yanked out of its socket, leaving him screaming in pure pain. Naruto, then sealing the socket to stop the pain and the bleeding, tossed the quickly losing conscious Uchiha back to the fire countryside, sealing the stolen Sharingan in a scroll. He exited his powered-up mode and turned around to leave when he felt another chakra signature arrive. He, turning his head, rolled his eyes, spotting Namikaze Uzumaki Natsuki Chunin of the village hidden in the leaves and daughter of the 5th Hokage Namikaze Uzumaki Kushina. Natsumi, spotting the defeated Sasuke, looked at Naruto with tears streaming down her face. She asked, "Why are you leaving, Naruto? I thought loved the village." Naruto, snorting, said, "I don't love the village that considers me a demon and only wants me to be a weapon to deter anyone from attacking them. They really thought I didn't know. Foolish. I always knew, I was simply biding my time so that I could leave." He then continued his trek to Odo. As he was about to cross the border, he stopped, sensing someone much more powerful than Natsumi near. His eyes widening started to look around trying to find the power, only for his world to grow black. Before passing out he heard an angry ancient voice say, "Do not worry my son, I'm taking you back to where you belong." Then it all went black. Hades looking down at his son scowled and snapped his fingers sending his son to Persephone, hopefully she was home. He turning his attention to the direction of the Leaf village, gained an evil grin as it was time for the Leaf to pay what they owed. He grabbing the unconscious Sasuke, knocked out Natsumi and grabbed her. Teleporting to the village hidden in the leaves he tossed the two mortals down and smiled finding himself surrounded by the Anbu. He laughing darkly said, "Village hidden in the leaves, my name is Hades and today you pay for trying to use my son as a weapon." He then snapping his fingers, made a black staff appear in his hands. He slamming the butt of said staff down on the ground, said, "I Hades, lord of the underworld and cousin to the Shinto death god Shinigami, hereby place a powerful curse on this village and most of the members of said village. All that die from this village except for Tsurutobi Kinohamaru, Narashikamaru, Ichiraku Am, Senjutsu Nade, and Mitarashi Anko, shall be sent to the fields of punishment where they shall be tortured until the end of times." The villager hearing this quickly tried to bribe Hades to not do this, but Hades snorted and said, "Foolish little man. If my wife had come instead of myself, this village would be looking like the center of the desert instead of Suna." He then actually gained a look of fear in his eyes as he said, "It would be even worse if my mother ever found out about this foolishness. She turned this little speck of dirt into a smoldering pit where not even the vultures would dare come near fearing her wrath." The god then flinched as his wife had just found Naruto and was hugging the poor boy to near death. He pinching the bridge of his nose said, "If you'd all excuse me, I have a son to rescue." He was then about to leave when he stopped and looked at the Uchiha. He smirking said, "Oh, and before I forget my son took the left eye of that little shit after kicking his spoiled ass. I myself removed what was so precious about his eyes when I brought him. So do enjoy that the oh so special and spoiled Sharingan is officially gone from this village." He smirking at the horrified faces said, "Also enjoy the fact that all the treaties my son caused have been informed how he was treated and the Fire Lord himself has been informed how the son of a god was treated by the foolish members of this village." He then walking out of the village, turned to look the shocked Kushina dead in the eyes as he said, "In case you fools still haven't figured it out. My son is Naruto, or as many of you fools like to call him, QB Brat, her weapon." Hades then left in a burst of acrid smoke. Kushina hearing who it was, started cursing like a sailor as she had been trying to fix what Tsurutobi and her foolish husband had done when they made Naruto the container for the fox. Hell, it was one of the main reasons she took the damn job in the first place. She looking at Sasuke and Natsumi said, "Take my daughter to our home. Someone take the Uchiha to the hospital to be looked over by Tsunade." She then turning to look at the still shocked people said, "Someone get the council members to the council chambers. I'm calling a meeting." She then unleashing a bit of her killing intent said, "Now." This got the response she was looking for as everyone started to move. When Hades arrived back home, he snickered spotting the heavy scowl on Naruto's face as Persephone fussed over him much like only a mother could. Naruto himself was scowling as Kurama was laughing his furry ass off at who he had discovered was his mother looking him over with the eyes of a mother. His scowl deepened when he heard her say, "My baby is too skinny. He needs to have a nice big meal. Starting with a homemade meal by mama." Hades hearing this blanched as he loved his wife dearly, but the woman couldn't cook to save her life. The last time she had cooked something for him, he had nearly been killed from food poisoning. He walking over said, "Now dear, I'm sure he doesn't need any food. This is probably just his look." He flinched when Persephone turned on him with a powerful glare as she said, "I am feeding my baby a homemade dinner and since you're here I will fix you a plate also." Hades hearing this felt his eyes widen as he said, "Well, what do you know? I have some paperwork I have to get to. Sorry dear, but I guess that dinner will have to wait until another time." He then got the hell out of there, leaving his son to his fate. Naruto spotting how fast Hades got out of there, got a very bad feeling in his stomach. He then heard Kurama whimper, he just ran like he had a pack of wild dogs after him. Naruto then thought, "I pity my stomach." An hour and a half later and Naruto could be seen on his bed, in his bedroom, laid out with swirls for his eyes. If one were to look closely you could see his and Kurama's soul trying to escape his body. The reason why? Hades had not been joking when he said Persephone couldn't cook to save a life. Naruto and Kurama had just been subjected to the worst cooking they had ever had the misfortune to taste. Hell, even Sakura's abysmal cooking was better than what he had just been forced to down out of sheer politeness. He getting control over his body seconds later leaned up on his bed and reached over to his nightstand. Grabbing the cup of water, he downed it in one shot and said, "I'm never doing that again. I don't care how much she gives me that damn puppy dog jutsu. I refuse to nearly die again because of her terrible cooking skills." Kurama inside of him said, "Kid, I'd rather you eat that slop known as ramen than try something that crazy again." Naruto nodding to this laid down on his bed the right way and said so it seems that in this world that I'm a god or half god. Kurama now sitting down in his cage, nodded and said yeah, you're the son of the god of death and the goddess of springtime. You know that your mom gave you a book to read. Naruto looking over at his nightstand, glared at the book and said I hate reading. He ignoring the snickering of Kurama, grabbed the book and started reading, ignoring the fact that both of his parents were at the door peeking in. Naruto flipping a page in the book felt his jaw touch the mattress spotting a picture of Artemis. He shaking his head said in the name of Raymond. Kurama giggling said, you find her attractive don't you kid? Naruto ignoring the blush on his face said shut it Baka Fox, before I force you relive that horrid sunset gain jutsu. Naruto smirked hearing Kurama whimper. He then looking at the picture of Artemis again. He did have to admit that she was rather fetching and had his attention. He then remembering the fact that he now had a mother who would stop at nothing to embarrass her baby boy, quickly turned to page not wanting to be subjected to what Shikamaru called the troublesome effects of a mother. What he didn't know that it was way too late as Persephone had seen just whose picture had made his jaw drop and the blush on her face and decided to meddle in her baby boy's love life. She summoning a messenger sent a message to her mother, hoping that Naruto's grandmother would help her plan. Hades seeing all of this shook his head feeling pity for his son. He walking into the room, sat down on the bed and smirked spotting Naruto reading about the Titan War and his grandfather. Naruto not even looking up from the book said dad, grandfather was a crazy paranoid old man. I mean come on he just put the prophecy in place by eating all of you. If it were me, I'd just ignore stupid thing and lived my life. Hades laughing said that's what any rational being would do son, but your grandfather was anything but rational. Naruto was about to agree when suddenly he felt a chill go down his spine. He had felt this chill once before, it had been when AM had found out how he spent his birthday. She had forced him to attend a party at the ramen stand, had given him a piece of cake from her mouth, taking his first kiss. To this day he still couldn't look at her without blushing like a lunatic. Kurama shivering said kid your mother has something planned that will most likely screw you over later in life. Naruto nodding asked dad what is mom doing. Hades sweat dropping said she's sending a message to your grandmother. Naruto hearing this blanched and said oh hell no. He then reaching into his pocket pulled out a smoke bomb. Throwing it on the floor, he released a dense cloud of black smoke. Hades coughing waved the smoke away and blinked finding Naruto gone. He looking around couldn't find a trace of him anywhere. This made him sweat drop wondering just how his son had managed to do that. Naruto could be seen running in a forest, a mask on his face and his sword on his back. Kurama inside of his head said, we need to find a place to hide kit and perfect your skills before whatever plan your mother has activates. Naruto nodding said I already know where we're going Kurama. It's time someone paid a visit to great-grandmother Ray. Kurama nodding said right kid, but remember to stay on the lookout for any monsters. Naruto nodding said will do. He and Kurama were then on their way to their new life, never knowing that his presence in the world was going to change things for the better. A few decades later and we find Percy Jackson, Annabeth Chase and Grover all staring down two pissed off Furies and an entire pack of hellhounds. Grover spotting a hellhound licking its lips whimpered, you just had to jinx us, didn't you Percy? Percy with his sword out was looking every way trying to find a way out gulped and said Grover, how was I supposed to know this would happen? Annabeth with her knife out said if I die because of you seaweed brain I'm going to haunt you. One of the Furies snarling said give it to us now Jackson. Percy with fear in his eyes said I don't have it. The Fury was about to speak again when suddenly all of the hellhounds went from snarling and drooling to whimpering and barking with glee. The Furies looking at the hounds wondered why this was happening until a large blood-red fox appeared. The Furies spotting this fox instantly blanched and took to the skies. This confused the two demigods and the satyr. Annabeth then spotted something that made her eyes widen. The blood-red fox had 9 tails that were as thick as a tree branch and with each step it took the ground trembled and burned. Hanging around its neck was a certain symbol that she had been reading about since she turned 6. It was a swirler whirlpool with a long thick bar extending to the left that had 2 marks on the end, looking much like 2 forks in a long road. Flames could be licking off of the whirlpool and these flames were as black as the night sky. What made her really shake though was the image of a 5-sided shuriken covered in some liquid. She slowly turning her head to Grover could tell that the satyr had recognized the symbol too. She turning to Percy hissed seaweed brain you jinxed us and now we're about to meet the youngest god and only god to be a member of both the Shinto pavilion and the Greek pavilion. Percy hearing this gulped. The fox was then in front of them. It smirked and said a daughter of Athena, son of Poseidon and a half-goat boy. The prophecy must be starting. It setting its eyes on Grover licked its lips and said my name is Kurama and I'm the harbinger of the great and powerful god of destruction, carnage or bloodshed for you idiots and demons. Kurama smirking said he is also the son of Hades and Persephone, grandson of Demeter and grandson of Re, and since he saved the Shinto pavilion from a madman, the adopted grandson of Izanami and Izanagi. Annabeth hearing this blanched and whispered I hadn't read about that. Kurama snorting said of course you haven't, daughter of Athena. That's because my partner was and will always be the best damn ninja you'll ever meet. That is if you ever have the misfortune to come across him. Or his four ladies of destruction. Kurama then looked over his shoulder and said damn your luck really sucks because it seems as this event has piqued his interest. Annabeth and Grover hearing this blanched even more. Before they could say a word, a pillar of black flames exploded in front of Kurama. When the flames died down standing there was a changed Naruto. His black hair was now down to his back and shadowed his face. His skin tone was lighter to the point of being ghostly pale. From his forehead a pair of thick silver horns could be seen. He was still as skinny as before, but this time muscles could be seen weaved into his skinny form. He wasn't wearing a shirt, so the tattoo of a huge 10-tailed jackal could be seen. He had on a pair of torn and faded black jeans, with black sneakers. Naruto looking at the three heroes blinked and asked Kurama which one of them is supposed to have the big baby's master bolt. Kurama transforming into a small fox form, jumped on Naruto's shoulder and said Percy Jackson, he's the one those old bats that work for your father were growling at. Naruto looking at Percy said he doesn't have the master bolt or father's helm for that matter. He then looking up at the Fury said you two go inform my father of this now and tell him to release Sally Jackson or I'll inform mother of just what he does to her cooking. The Fury screeched and took off. Naruto then setting his eyes on Percy said I'll help you out little cousin. I am the god of destruction, carnage and demons, but Izanami, Izanagi and Chaos have given me a few other titles. Annabeth felt like her eyes were going to pop out. Naruto spotting this laughed and said oh don't be surprised little owl, saving an entire pavilion of gods and goddesses tends to get the attention of the creators. Pop Chaos is really a down-to-earth guy, Izanagi is a little uptight, and Izanami is just a ball. That's beside the point. I grant to three of you the power of three of my top demons. He pointing to Percy said I grant you the impenetrable shell of Isam the three tails. Percy blinked as his body felt like it was being covered in a shell of power. He pointing to Annabeth said I grant you the knowledge and tactical skills of Seiken the six tails. He smirking at Grover said I grant you the pure power of Son Goku, otherwise known as the four tails. Annabeth felt her eyes widen as knowledge she never dreamed of flooded her brain and she got a first-person point of view of Naruto's skills. Grover felt this fire flood his system filling him to the brim with confidence and bravado. Naruto laughing said I also grant you the protection of my harbinger Kurama Yoko, self-titled king of demons, which granted I don't really care for the title myself and nine-tailed fox, and for insurance purposes my queen of carnage and Shinto goddess of wind, Subuku Tamari. Kurama hearing this shook his head and said kit with me alone, they have enough firepower to give old lightning ass a run for his money, adding that ill-tempered, bloodthirsty, insane woman to the mix, and these three will make monsters tremble in fear. Naruto laughing in humor said you forgot to mention heavily pregnant and quick to attack her least favorite demon. Kurama hearing this blanched and said she's pregnant again. Damn it kid keep it in your goddamn pants. Last time she and your brats nearly killed me. Kurama then got a good look at Naruto's face and could see an evil smirk on his face. He got very suspicious feeling that quickly turned into pure fear when he heard a familiar cracking of knuckles. He quickly leaped from Naruto's shoulder onto Grover's and started to tremble. The reason why, well there was a 18-year-old looking woman with spiky blonde hair tied into four pigtails. Her black eyes reflected malice. The kimono she was wearing was being stretched by her heavily pregnant stomach and on her back a huge fan could be seen. This was Subuku Tamari and she was 6 months pregnant with hers and Naruto's 8th child. Naruto spotting her kissed her on the cheek and said, do be careful love, you are carrying number 8 there. Tamari turning to him kissed him on his lips and said don't you worry about me. Remember I can still kick Kurama's ass even if I'm 9 months pregnant. Naruto hearing this laughed and said that you can love, that you can. He turning around rubbed a bridge of his nose and said now if you excuse me I have a large 3-headed dog to give a bath. He then vanished in a plume of black flames. Kurama still hiding from Tamari and Grover's hair wished that he was the one giving Cerberus her bath. Tamari looking at the three kids smiled and said I remember when I was as young as you guys. She sighing wistfully said, that's the first time I meet Naruto-kun and he made sweet love to me in the ladies' bathroom. Kurama hearing this couldn't help but giggled and say the kid had you screaming and moaning like a common whore. Tamari hearing this scowled and asked what was that baka fox. Kurama going back to whimpering said nothing. Tamari said that's what I thought. She turning pulled her fan out and said come on we need to head out. Annabeth shaking her head asked did he really slap a comet away with his bare hands. Kurama popping out of Grover's hair said slapped it away, grabbed it by its tail, and slammed it down on that fool Madara. Damari giggling said that's not even the most baddest thing Naruto has ever done. Kurama nodding said, one time the kid caught an entire planet and turned it into cereal for his kids. Another time he rode a tsunami all the way to Hawaii just so he could get him some pulled pork. Damari giggling said I remember when he was fighting my brother. Naruto-kun shoved a kunai up his ass and made it explode. Kurama rolling with laughter said Shukaku will never live that down. The kid made his ass explode and laughed about it. Damari giggling said remember when Naruto-kun fought Kisame and Orochimaru. Kurama pounding his fist on Grover's head said the kid called Kisame sushi during the entire battle, ripped the man's head off and played tennis using his hands. The snake he simply walked into his base, pimp slapped that glasses-wearing freak and asked what's a god got to do to get some service here. Damari laughing said Orochimaru never looked so red in his life. Naruto then killed the snake by ripping his tongue out and strangling the snake with it. Percy asked how can he do all of this? I thought gods were forbidden from interfering in the lives of mortals. Damari snorting said Naruto-kun doesn't follow rules. He breaks them. Destroys them. Kurama nodding said the kid doesn't even follow his mother's rules. I think if it's a rule, he's gonna break it. Why? Because the kid is the god of destruction and really doesn't give a damn what anyone thinks. Damari giggling said Naruto-kun once smacked Ares because he was bored and then ended up in a war with the god of war. Kurama snorting said god of war my ass. More like god of little baby kittens. The kid destroyed everything that was thrown at him and then made the god of war's life a living hell. The kid was a play away from taking Aphrodite away from Ares, but the prick gave up. Grover hearing this gained wide eyes and asked how badass is Lord Naruto. Damari giggling said Naruto has warned Zeus that if he doesn't start treating Hera better and stop cheating on her, Naruto is going to take her and make sure she gets the love she deserves. Annabeth hearing this felt her eyes widen. She shaking her head asked how did Lady Hera feel about this? Kurama with a smirk on his face said Hera said she would let him as she has seen how Naruto treats his women. Damari giggling with a blush on her face said Naruto-kun is the best lover there has ever been. I mean he sweeps you off of your feet every time he sees you. Hell I'm pregnant right now because he decided to come to my homeland just to take me out on a date. Kurama laughing said the kid could make Aphrodite fall in love, not lust, but actually love. Percy hearing this asked then why does Ares still claim her? Damari giggling said it's part of the truce Naruto and Ares signed. Ares doesn't beep with anything of Naruto's and Naruto doesn't beep Aphrodite silly. Grover giggled at this and asked is it really that simple? Kurama plopping down in Grover's hair said yes it's that simple. Ares beeps with anything Naruto considers his and Naruto makes the goddess of love one of his girls. Annabeth blinking asked why do I get the feeling that it's only a matter of time before Lady Aphrodite is Lord Naruto's. Damari snorting said because Ares is an idiot and will eventually beep with something belonging to Naruto-kun. Kurama said my money is on the dumbest beeping with me. Damari snorting said nice try Baka Fox, I know better to bet against you or Naruto-kun as you two have the devil's luck. Kurama giggling said they finally learn it seems. A few days later and Kurama was now being held by Annabeth and was actually trying to take a nap as these three brats got into more trouble than he and Naruto did on one of Naruto's silly adventures and that was saying something. Tamari had to return home as it was nearly time for the baby to be born and Persephone wanted to be there for the birth of her 8th grandchild. She had been there for the first 7, but Persephone had missed so much of Naruto's life, she didn't even want to think about missing any of her grandkids' lives. Tamari had promised that one of the other ladies of destruction would come help the kids, but that had been 2 days ago and Kurama had to fight several of monsters, including the beeping chimera. So he was rightfully tired as shit. His eyes then popped open sensing Ares. He sitting up turned to look at the entrance to the diner. Sure enough Ares pulled up in a pretty loud motorcycle and walked into the diner like he was a boss or something. Ares taking a seat waved at the waitress and started to talk to the 3 kids. Kurama smelling a trick said sorry, but the brats aren't doing you any favors smelly. Ares hearing this turned to Kurama with a snarl on his face. He growling said shut your face you ugly ass fox. Kurama getting insulted asked you wanna say that to my face smelly? Ares leaning forward with a sneer on his face said I said shut your face you ugly ass. He was cut off as Kurama chose this moment to slash the god of war across the face with his sharp claws. Ares screaming in pain, grabbed his face and was now literally steaming mad. He moving his hands glared at Kurama and said, you've done it now fox. Ares then reached forward and grabbed Kurama by the nape of his neck and tossed Kurama at the windows hard. This made Kurama crash through the window and roll into the middle of the busy street. Kurama standing up shook the glass from his fur, knowing that if even a drop of his blood hit the pavement, Naruto would come and Ares would be history. He didn't want the kid to arrive just yet, no he wanted Naruto to arrive, just as it looked Ares was going to finish Kurama off. Kurama couldn't really die, but this would let the three kids he was traveling with see the power Naruto had. Ares walking out of the diner with a snarl on his face asked still alive Fox. Kurama snorting said I've eaten food that hit harder than that. Ares hearing yet again another insult snarled and grabbed Kurama by his head and started to punch Kurama in the face repeatedly. He stopping after about 40 solid punches, asked what do you have to say now Fox? Kurama with both of his eyes swollen shut, smirked revealing his blood-soaked teeth and said only that you just broke the truce dipshit. He then felt his blood hit the ground ignoring the wide fearful eyes of Ares. When the blood hit the ground, it not only started to sizzle, but it also started to hiss loudly. Suddenly the sky darkened and the ground started to tremble in fear. Kurama laughing said he's coming you idiot and he's gonna break every bone in your body before he takes Aphrodite from you. I hope you enjoy your hand, as that's going to be the only action you get from now on. The ground then literally split open and a giant skeletal arm appeared and placed itself on the ground. This arm was quickly followed by another. The huge skeletal head of a jackal then appeared and it was glaring at Ares with pure hate. It then unleashed a roar so terrifying Ares actually shit himself. The jackal then pulled the rest of its body from the ground and jumped into the air. This jackal quickly shifted into the form of Naruto, who floated in the air, literally luminescent with how much power he was putting out. Naruto's black hair was literally floating from how much power he was emitting. Naruto slowly touching the ground glared at Ares with his slitted golden eyes. Ares gulping loudly slowly put down Kurama who blinked when he was instantly scooped up and felt two large breasts be pressed up against him. He knowing these breasts anywhere sighed in relief and said my personal favorite of the four ladies of destruction. He closing his eyes nuzzled into the warm arms of Natsumi Uzumaki, Lady of Destruction #1 and Naruto's first wife. Natsumi had grown up rather nicely from how she had been. Her hair was long and platinum blonde and most of it was plaited into a tight braid. Her face was flawless and her silver eyes were looking at Ares with just as much hate as Naruto. Natsumi also had large DD cup breast, with the left one having Naruto's name tattooed on it. She was dressed in a dark blue button-up shirt that was mostly unbuttoned, revealing her electric yellow bra. To go with this shirt, a knee-length skirt that was the same dark blue as the shirt and a pair of long electric yellow socks. Naruto glaring at Ares with all of his hate, said you just broke the truce. Ares gulping and sweating heavily took several steps back and said now let's not get too hasty here. He was quickly shut up when Naruto let out a rather loud growl and two large dragon-like wings spread out from his back. Naruto with his large canine teeth glinting in the light said, you have 5 seconds to run as fast and as far as you can before I beat you like a damn rug. Ares hearing this turned around and took off running completely forgetting his motorcycle. 5 seconds later Naruto let loose a ground-shaking, stomach-churning roar and to the shock of Percy, of Grover, and amazement of Annabeth transformed into a very large dark grey dragon. He then flew off towards the direction that Ares had run off in. Natsumi watching as her husband flew after Ares turned to the three kids and smiled softly at them. She sitting down on the ground and adjusting Kurama in her arms bowed and said hello my name is Natsumi Uzumaki and I'm the first wife of Naruto-kun. I'm also the first lady of destruction and the Shinto goddess of nature and the wild. Grover hearing this instantly started to swoon on the spot as Natsumi was the Shinto version of Pan. Percy with a small blush on his face wondered if he would ever be able to pull the hot females like Naruto could. Annabeth looking at Kurama in Natsumi's arms asked will Kurama be alright lady Natsumi? Natsumi smiling gently said Kurama-kun will be just fine after a good night's sleep. Now catch me up on what I missed. Percy was about to when all three kids and Kurama's stomachs alerted the group that they were hungry. All three kids blushed darkly when this happened and Kurama mumbled about food in his sleep. Natsumi giggling said you can catch me up after we fill your stomachs. After eating Natsumi with Kurama in her lap said well since we need a ride to our destination, I think we'll travel in style. She getting up and once again sitting Kurama in her arms walked outside of the diner and clicked her teeth. Percy, Annabeth and the still swooning Grover all gained wide eyes when a beautiful golden elephant appeared. Natsumi smiling said climb on kids. They doing so watched as Natsumi sat in the front and said alright girl let's get going. The elephant nodding shocked the three teens by literally starting to run on the very air. Annabeth with wide eyes asked how. Natsumi giggling said this beautiful baby girl was a present to me by Naruto-kun on our wedding day. I have had her since she was just a little baby and her name is Mai which is Japanese for dance. Annabeth hearing this blinked and asked he gave you an elephant as a wedding present. Natsumi nodding said yes and I gave him my heart. He didn't really ask for anything in return and never has. He's not selfish like that but he does like to cause destruction in the Shinto realm from time to time. Percy asked how did he transform into that dragon back there? Natsumi giggling said that dragon is just one of his many forms. In fact all of have most likely heard about one of his forms at some point. Rover blinking asked, what do you mean, Lady Natsumi? She giggling again said, please call me Natsumi, and I mean that everyone has at least seen or heard of one of his forms. Like for example, one of his many forms is the being known as Lucifer by some mortals, or the devil. Percy hearing this gained wide-eyed and asked, how old is he? Natsumi giggling said he looks to be in his 20s but is really centuries old. Annabeth now curious asked, what other forms might we recognize? Natsumi said Aaron Rodgers, quarterback of the Packers, Justin Timberlake, sometimes he likes to be Justin Bieber. All eyes were wide hearing this, even the just waking up Kurama. Percy shaking his head asked, are you telling me he's the one responsible for that Zeus awful baby song? Natsumi shaking her head and trying not to giggle, said no, Bieber is actually his form of punishment for a man named Obito. Naruto-kun just sometimes takes over and forces Bieber to break the law and cause a little chaos. Annabeth asked, what about Aaron Rodgers? Kurama speaking up said, that's all the kid. The kid likes to play games, and what better game is there than football? Of course he doesn't use his godly abilities, as that would give him an unfair advantage. Rover somehow still swooning asked, is he responsible for the song Sexy Back? Kurama grinning with all of his teeth said, hell yeah he is. The kid made that song to piss off his troublesome and meddling mother. I still remember the day he made it. We was once again forced to eat a dinner that she butchered, and she was all lecturing the kid about getting Tamari pregnant for the 5th time, and he was getting tired of it. So he stood up shocking Natsumi-chan, Kushina Baka, Anko and Tamari, and said, I'm bringing Sexy back. Them other guys don't know how to act. Persephone had the most shocked and appalled look on her face, and Hades looked like he was about to die from laughter. Now every time she hears that song she scowls, which makes it funny as every time I or my siblings are in the underworld, we sing the song to purposely rile her up. Percy with wide eyes asked, why did you say butchered? Natsumi actually blanching said, because my mother-in-law really can't cook to save any lives. I've literally seen Naruto-kun try to feed his plate to the dog, Cerberus, who wouldn't even eat it. Annabeth blinking asked, is it really that bad? Kurama nodding said, the first time the kid was forced to eat her food, both of our souls nearly left this plane of existence from how terrible it was. Hell, I can still feel the pain that abomination left in my stomach. Rover hearing this blanched and said, okay, her food must truly be terrible. Kurama was about to nod when a voice that filled him up with dread said, Foxy. Kurama going from red to so white snow would be green with envy, slowly turned around and blanched, spotting Naruto and Tamari's 7th child. It was a little girl with the same blonde hair Tamari had, but Naruto's burning golden eyes. This girl was named Akiko Uzumaki and was 5. She was also the devil and death to anything considered fluffy, and sadly for Kurama he was considered fluffy by her. She appearing and wrapping him a death hug, said, I missed you so much, Foxy. Mama told me that you were traveling with Mama Natsumi. She ignoring Kurama trying to get out of her death hug, said, Daddy told me that big meanie Ares attacked you and gave me the command to come check on you. I was happy to do so, because Kitty and Monkey hide from me and Horsey hasn't woken up from its nap yet. Kurama hearing this really started to try and get out of her grip, as this meant Akiko would fully focus on him, meaning pain. Natsumi knowing that Akiko would strangle Kurama, picked the 5-year-old up and said, let Kurama-kun go, Akiko-chan, and I'll finally tell you the story of how Daddy defeated the 8-headed white snake. Akiko hearing this instantly let go of Kurama and paid close attention to Natsumi, who smiled softly and said, listen closely little one as I spin you this tale. A tale of romance, adventure, drama and a hero. Akiko giggling knew it was story time, as Natsumi would always use this voice when it was story time. Kurama actually taking a seat in Annabeth's lap was ready to hear this story, knowing that the 3 teens he was traveling with and Artemis with her hunters were about to hear the very good, very exciting and very true story of when Naruto killed Orochimaru of the Sannin. So this part ends here. Alright, that's it for today's video guys. Let me know in the comments section how was the story, and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video. Bye bye.